So for the rest of our time, I want you to think about your unique sales experience. How could you change the experience, the vibe, the feeling that you're creating along the way? Everything from the first engagement through the process. So let me give you a couple mindsets and some strategies. And so the first one, you might want to write this one down. Focus on value creation. Focus on value creation. So value creation is one of those terms like mom and apple pie. Like, who disagrees with that, right? But how many salespeople that I observe and that you observe, are they really creating value in the process? And when I showed this slide a few years ago, I came across it recently. I'm like, that fits for today, because that's what we're talking about. Now, here's how I'll define this. Every single interaction should have a value creation component. Every email, every phone call, every virtual meeting, every LinkedIn post, every vidyard or pre-recorded video cut should have a value creation component to it. I'll give you an example of LinkedIn. Most people's LinkedIn posts are not value creation posts. I call them asks, right? It's like ask in their posts. An ask might be, look at our trade show booth coming up next week. Stop by booth 4262. Here's our new webinar coming up is the next post. And check it out. Sign up right now. Here's another post. Here's our new feature and benefit. We have a new innovation, blah, blah, blah. Here, look at me, look at me, look at me. And we wonder why people aren't engaging with most LinkedIns, right? What about a value creation post that doesn't do an ask? Here's, I think, what the cadence should be. Instead of ask in the post, it should be value, ask. If you create value, the engagement changes. If we create value, the engagement changes. So, here's one of my rules. This is the anti-value creation way to sell, and I will cop to doing this in my career. JCIs are just checking ins. Who's made a just checking in? Who will cop to making a just checking in? Just checking in, just checking in. So there's zero value to the buyer to a JCI. So that might be your journal entry. No JCIs today. No, and I know they're tempting. But they're fairly lazy, and I've done them, so I'll cop to it, like I said. So if we look at what buyers want, okay, here's what they're looking for in the process. 86% say they want the sales rep to be a trusted industry expert. Not only that, 85% want the salesperson to have a clear understanding of their needs, okay? They're basically looking for value. But here's what they're getting. The same study. 73% say the sales discussions feel like transactions and they're not relational, okay? This is the buyers talking. And when I see these, it pains me. So I'm like, oh, because I'm a salesperson to my core. I've been selling since I was 10 years old, something, when I was figuring this out recently. You know, door-to-door Cub Scout candy and selling shoes in high school, and I sold my way through college. I mean, it hurts to see some of this stuff, but it's a huge opportunity. So let me give you an approach you might consider. Write this down, the synthesize and simplify approach. So who here has read any of the books by Malcolm Gladwell? Who's ever read Gladwell? Oh yeah, Tipping Point, Blink, Outliers. Outliers is a good one. Let's see. How about Atomic Habits? Who's read Atomic Habits? That's a big one, right? Yeah. Because, see, I noticed that most of the books I was reading in business had a formula to them. And I labeled it the synthesize and simplify approach. So if you think of Atomic Habits, here's what James Clear did. He took a series of studies on habits, like 7, 8, 9 studies or whatever it is. He synthesized all the, think of each study has like 25 white paper pages or whatever in it. He took all these studies, he synthesized them, and he simplified them into a book called Atomic Habits. If you go to Wall Street Journal's, the last page of the review section this Saturday, I can pretty much guarantee Atomic Habits will be the #1 book, and it's been there for years. He synthesizes and simplifies. All the great authors do that. Daniel Coyle did it with the book The Talent Code. That's another good one, right? So if we are looking at what's happening here, how can we be simplifiers and not complicators? I think most salespeople are complicators. No one's looking for complexity in their world. People are looking for simplification. And part of the buying process has gotten really complicated. 92%, think of this stat. 92% of buyers want to be dealing with a thought leader, right? 92% want to be with a thought leader. I think one of the ways you can create value and be a thought leader is to synthesize and simplify things that are relevant to them. So for me, I go to things that are relevant to our clients, things like Sandler Research Center, or Gartner, or Forrester, or McKinsey, or LinkedIn State of Sales. I mean, there's certain places I go, and I'm like, okay, how can I synthesize this 25-page report and simplify it for the clients that I work with? And so think in your world, what kind of data sets do you have where you can synthesize the complexity of an industry and create value by giving them something that will help them along the way? And ultimately, you will become a thought leader, but it'll because you are not the smartest in the room. It's because you're synthesizing and simplifying. What many salespeople do is this. They say, hey, our company just came up with a white paper. Here's the white paper. That now complicates their life. No one's looking for more complication now. We write checks to simplifiers. Jeff Bezos is, I think, one of the greatest simplifiers in the history of the world. He took a lot of complexity out of my life. He said, hey, you don't have to make those lists and drive around and do all this. Just go there, you push a couple buttons. I think he's got like 200 billion. I think we should give him $1 trillion. I think he's the most underpaid guy, and I've created controversy with that one. But my accountant, I just talked to him. I'm going to write a check to my accountant. I could go to TurboTax and screw it up, but I'm writing a check to my accountant because he's going to simplify the process for me. I'm going to pay way more than I'm going to pay in other places, but it simplifies it. People want to deal with simplifiers. So I'll give you 10, 15 seconds. What's a source in your industry that you could use? If you could synthesize and simplify it and put it even to a graphic like this, you could actually create value in the process and over time be a thought leader and be attracting versus repelling. So write down one industry source that you could go to. Like I said, mine are Gartner, Forrester, Sandler Research Center. Harvard Business Review has some good stuff. Where would you go if you were trying to build value through synthesizing and simplifying? Where could you go for that? And the other thing with, if you have white papers, your company has marketing pieces they put out that are complex, use snipping tools, my friend, right? So if I have a report and there's a really cool graphic, I just snipping tool it. I'll say I attach the whole report, but let me just show you this one graphic I think is relevant to you. Here's another stat I think is key. 77% of buyers feel that the process has gotten more complex. It's gotten more complex than they want it to be. All right, so here's another way I think we can simplify. We can certainly simplify the buying process. Imagine this. You create so much value over time that when the complexity of the buying process happens, you're the only potential supplier they invite in to help make sense of all the proposals and information they have. If you get to trusted advisor status, you will get special rules, and you will do that through value creation and through simplification. So Gartner had a study that looked at 3 kinds of salespeople. You might write these 3 down. There's the giving salesperson. They say, let me give you some information on that. Okay? That's the way I started in sales. Let me just send you something. Okay? 3 kinds of salespeople. One's the givers, the giving. Number 2 kind of salespersons, the tellers. Let me tell you what I know. That's particularly popular with people with a lot of industry experience. Let me tell you what I know. And then they had the sense makers. They say, well, the sense makers are the salespeople who say, you know what? There's a lot of information out there in complexity. Let me just help you make some sense of it. Okay, then they looked at who closes the most deals. The givers had a 3 out of 10, the tellers had a 5 out of 10, but the sense makers had an 8 out of 10, because the sense makers are simplifiers. Don't be a complicator, be a simplifier. You will create value throughout your simplifications. Okay, number 2, mindset. Number 2, mindset. Amplify your USX with technology.
Thank you for watching this highlight video from the Sandler Summit. You can join us for the next Sandler Summit in 2024, March 19th and 20th at the Orlando World Center Marriott. Register now at sandler.com/summit.